Module will walk you through the process when it's necessary to fill out a request for student review by the district student review team. Unfortunately, there are events that could result in an expulsion, an alternative to expulsion, or an admin transfer of a student. All of these are for the most serious offenses, and expulsion should be a last resort. There's only one offense that's mandatory expulsion according to Colorado law, and every other expulsion recommendation is considered discretionary and should be requested by school administration using the process outlined in this document. In the event of a potential recommendation for review by the District Student Review Team, or SRT, the first call should be to your community superintendent to see if they support the recommendation based on the facts and statutory grounds. The second call should be to the discipline office, ideally on the first day that the incident happens, and definitely when you determine that you'd like to seek expulsion. The clock does start ticking as soon as a student is suspended, and there are strict timelines per law, so this process needs to be really efficient. Then you need to complete as thorough an investigation as possible, particularly if you're recommending a student for review and you are talking about expulsion or an alternative or an admin transfer. This investigation needs to be as thorough as possible. Gather all evidence and facts supporting your recommendation, interview witness statements, make sure you get as many different perspectives as possible, confiscate and photograph any weapons, etc. Fill in all of the gaps with your investigation with the assumption that this is going to go to a third party for a hearing in case of a recommendation for expulsion. If there is a threat assessment happening as a result of this incident, please don't wait on this. Threat assessments and discipline process are separate. They may run concurrently, but don't delay one for the other. Then you go through the process as though you would a regular suspension. You need to complete the suspension checklist. Make sure you're using the proper form for students with disabilities or students without disabilities. Make sure as well that you're informing parents that you are recommending the student to expel. Don't tell them that their student is expelled until the process is complete. But please don't keep that from them and be upfront if you are going this route. Then the suspension with intent to expel letter using the code violation policy language that is in the reason for expulsion needs to be completed. Please make sure that your letter is translated and communicated in the preferred language. This is really important for due process, and it is required of us. And then finally, you'll fill out the Google form with all of this information as soon as possible so that it can be reviewed by the student review team, which meets on Wednesday mornings. Incomplete information can't be reviewed, so it's really important to get this done as soon as possible. This Google form is very comprehensive. And it does take time, but given the fact that these are for the most serious events, it should take time. So again, fill out this form as soon as possible by the school administrator when a suspension has been imposed and the school is recommending or requesting expulsion or an alternative to expulsion. You do have some options for a variety of recommendations throughout this form. So complete this fully: student last name, first name, ID number, your name and email. Does the student have an IEP or a 504? If they do have an IEP, what is the primary and or secondary disability? And then uploading some PDFs. This, again, can be time consuming. And if you're just documenting and you're not an administrator that's managing it, maybe you can support your admin by accessing and uploading some of the PDFs, but this really does need to be filled out by an administrator. So you'll upload a PDF of the most recent IEP and 504 information, if applicable, a complete description of the event. This is longer than what would be on the letter. How did the school learn about and decide to investigate the incident? Did it come about as a safe to tell? Was it a student that reported it? Was it observed on a camera? As much information as possible. What's the primary reason that you're requesting this disciplinary action? Please, again, only document the most severe reason in Infinite Campus. If there are multiple events that are contributing to that, just add that in the details section of behavior management, just as though you were documenting another discipline event. Then check the relevant statutory grounds for suspension and expulsion. Everything should fit into one of these buckets, and if it doesn't, then please make sure you're contacting your community superintendent and or the discipline office if you need to process this. If it's related to substance abuse, has the student been referred to the nurse or drug intervention services previously? That is one of the things that is required. Interventions are really important. So what documented interventions have been implemented? Here are some options there. Feel free to add additional information and check everything that does apply. And then you have your option of what you're recommending your student for. Expulsion, alternative to expulsion with return, alternative to expulsion with the transfer, or just a straight up admin transfer. This is also sort of a last resort. And then why are you recommending this? Be specific and include any factual information. And then, unless this incident is a firearm on campus, which is the only mandatory expulsion, what other documented interventions have been implemented? So please list everything that is documented within campus or somewhere else that we can reference. What's the length of the expulsion you're requesting? They're not automatically calendar years or for the most severe. Everything else could be adjusted. Why are you recommending this term? Was there a weapon involved? If there's a weapon, upload a photo. Please make sure if it is like a knife or something that you are measuring, taking a photo of the weapon next to a ruler so we can get an idea of scale. Uploading the discipline checklist, you've completed it, and you are confirming that you are sending it to the family in preferred language. And then this next part is uploading your suspension and recommendation to Excel letter that you did send home to the family. Please make sure that your codes in the letter match the reason that's in Infinite Campus and the grounds. And then any incident reports, police reports, witness statements, any other information that's supporting your recommendation for expulsion and could potentially be presented at an expulsion hearing. It's very important that you redact any and all other student names or identifying information prior to uploading this for confidentiality reasons. Same thing, uploading any videos, pictures, screenshots, or text messages that support your recommendation. If there are other student names or identifying information, please redact those prior to uploading. PDF of the student summary page, the student behavior and admin contact log. Again, making sure that there are no other student names in there. And I have PDF of the student transcript, attendance, uploading your code of conduct presentation and student signature sign-off sheet, and then anything else that you want the team to know. So filling out this Google form completely will facilitate all of this. And it is time consuming, but again, expulsion is the most serious consequence. So it's really important that this process is thorough and accurate. So after all this has been done, the student review team will meet and the school will be informed of any decision and any next steps. Any student who is moved forward with a recommendation for expulsion will be provided a hearing in front of a third-party hearing officer, and the school will be required to attend and present all the relevant facts and information to that hearing officer. A recommendation from the hearing officer is then made to the superintendent for a final decision. This process can be very time-consuming and stressful. Expulsion is the most serious consequence reserved for most serious offenses, and a thorough, detailed approach with process and documentation will help us to ensure equity in our work, and we definitely owe it to our students and families to get this right. So thank you for your time and attention to this important documentation module, and please reach out to the discipline office with any questions. Thank you.